Regina was very attractive, and even in high school she realized that she could achieve a lot through that. The girl wanted a noisy and cheerful life, and she considered it a terrible injustice that she was born in a small town. Unlike Regina, her best friend Tina had no intention of leaving the city and was going to become a teacher just like her mother. Her mother was seriously ill, and the girl would have never left her alone. Tina was secretly in love with a local farmer's son, Frank. Frank was in love with Regina, and Regina dreamed of a rich husband and used Frank only as a friend. Such a love triangle. Immediately after graduation, Regina left her town. In the city, the girl almost immediately began an affair with a not very young but prosperous and married man. He rented her an apartment in downtown, gave her money for clothes and beauty salons. Regina was happy for 6 months until her lover's wife found out about their affair. Overnight, the girl ended up on the street, but it did not bother her much. She easily got a job as a waitress in a fancy restaurant. Now she had no shortage of admirers who left her generous tips. One of them was William, the son of rich parents who wasted their money left and right. Regina decided she was ready to tie her life to him. But William didn't even think of building a serious relationship with her, and wasn't shy about flirting with other women. Then Regina decided to get pregnant, except she didn't expect that William, having found out about her pregnancy, would just run away. From William's friends, she heard that his father had sent him to studying abroad, and she already found him a worthy bride. But Regina was not going to cry over failure too long. So she decided to return home and then leave the child with her mother. The first person she met was Frank. He had matured over the years and looked very brutal. Regina involuntarily admired him, and he did not even try to hide his joy over her arrival. Suddenly she had a plan. Already on the first date she was whispering words of love, not ashamed of her lies, and literally made Frank's head spin. A week later he proposed to her, and Regina insisted on a speedy wedding. 8 months later their son was born. Frank's parents were looking at their little grandson disapprovingly, but Frank joyfully exclaimed that the baby was just his copy. Time passed, the baby grew up, and Regina became bored again. She spent her days hanging around the house doing nothing and hardly paying attention to her son. One day she told her husband that she had found a good hairdressing course in the city and was going to go to study in a week. Of course, Frank was not thrilled at such a prospect, but he understood that Regina was not happy at home, so he agreed to his wife's wish. Regina promised to come back in a week, but disappeared for a month, rarely calling home and asking about her son. And in the city, Regina never went to any classes. She hung out at various clubs and dated different men, relaxing to the fullest. And then one morning, she felt the familiar nausea again and immediately realized what it was. Regina quickly packed her things and returned to her husband. And this time, she managed to deceive her husband again. The woman gave birth to her daughter on time, and when the baby was only 3 months old, Frank found Regina packing her things. He sat down on the bed and asked what it all meant. Regina, continuing to pack, said that she was tired of wasting her youth and beauty on diapers and her farmer husband, and so she was leaving for the city, of course without the babies. Frank stood up and left the room in silence. 12 years had passed. Regina's life was exactly as she wished it to be. Men were flocking to her like moths to a fire, and she was choosing the richer ones. But every year there were fewer of them. And then one day she woke up in bed with a man whose name she couldn't remember and whose whole appearance made her cringe. The woman realized that it was time to return to loving her Frank. She had no doubt that he would forgive her as soon as he saw her. 3 days later, she walked up to Frank's house and saw that it was a real celebration. Balloons, flags, music. Once inside, she was stunned. Her childhood friend Tina was fussing over the tables, and 2 girls and a boy were helping her. Regina indignantly asked Tina what she was doing here, and was about to tell the children who she really was when Frank came up to her, silently took her under the elbow and led her outside. There, Regina said angrily that she had come to her house and was upset to see another woman at her home. Frank was struck by Regina's arrogance and told her that he, his wife Tina, and their 3 children were living in this house. In desperation, Regina confessed that Frank was not the real father of her children, but she didn't expect that he would react calmly to this. The ex-husband looked at her with contempt and regret and said, "I knew this for a long time, but I kept quiet because I was in love with you and believed that I would love you until the end of my days. Therefore, I used to forgive you everything. But over time, I realized that there were other women around. Then I saw Tina and understood that she was a true woman, a true mother and a true wife. And now I am happy to have her and the children in my life. So, are you going to take your kids, or what?" Regina answered, "No." But Frank had already known that she would answer that way. After looking at Regina one last time, he said goodbye to her and hurried into the backyard where his family and friends were already waiting for him. For a few minutes, Regina was watching them from afar, trying to guess which of the 2 girls was her daughter, and then she lowered her head and walked away, not disturbing their happiness any longer.